structure of image classification task. There are few steps to classify the image. First is the image processing. Second is the detection of an object. Third is the feature extraction and the training. Fourth is the classification of the object. Talking about the first one, that is image processing. Now, the aim of this process is to improve the image data by suppressing the unwanted distortion and enhancement of some important features so that our computer vision models, they can benefit from the improved data to work out on. So that means in image process, pre-processing, what we are doing, if an image is being fed into this part, the unwanted data, the distortion in the image, they will be omitted, they will be suppressed. So if that is called image processing. So now the relevant data related to image remains for the further steps. Second, detection of an object. Now, detection refers to the localization of an object, which means the segmentation of the image and identifying the position of the object of interest. Now, if we have an image, there can be multiple things into it, but we want to detect the important object. So, this is called detection. Detection means it refers to the localization of the object, which means the segmentation of the object of the image and identifying the position of the objects in an image. That is called detection of the object. The third one is the feature extraction and training. Now, this is a crucial step wherein statistical or deep learning methods, they are used to identify the most interesting patterns of the image features that might be unique to a particular class, and that will later on help the model to differentiate between different classes. Now we have the fourth one, that is the classification of the object. Now this step, it will categorize the detected objects into the predefined class by using a suitable classification technique which compares the image patterns with the target patterns. So these are the four basic steps, or we can say the structure of image classification task. If we are performing the image classification, what all four things we need to do? First is the image processing, in which we remove the unwanted data or the distortions of the image. Second is the detection of the object, means the localization of all the objects that are present in our image. Third is the feature extraction and the training. So this is important. Why is this important? Because in this particular object, using this, we are extracting some of the features of the images which are very important. And this feature will help them to categorize that image into a particular class. The fourth one is the classification object. This step, it will categorize the detected object into the predefined classes by using a suitable classification technique. So these are the four steps for the image classification. Talking about another one, that is object detection. Object detection, it is a computer vision technique for localizing or for locating basically the instances of the objects in the images or maybe in the videos. So for locating the instances of the object, we are using image segmentation. Object detection algorithm, they typically leverage machine learning or the deep learning to produce the meaningful result. If we want to produce some meaningful result, we definitely require to detect the objects. Like for us, the humans, when we look at the images or the videos, we can recognize and locate the objects of interest within a matter of moments. So similarly, the goal of object detection is to replicate this intelligence using the computer. Suppose we are standing on a beach. there we can easily locate, if we are viewing a particular scene, we can easily locate the different objects, like a person playing with a ball, two children just jumping into the waves. So for us, it is very simple to categorize or to recognize these objects. But this detection is a very important field for our computer vision task. So, the goal of object detection here is to replicate the intelligence that we have in humans to detect these objects. How to use this using the computer? Now, you can choose from two key approaches to get started with the object detection using the deep learning. First one, create and train a custom object detector. So, to train a custom object detector from scratch, what do you need? You need to design a network architecture to learn the features for the objects of interest. Second approach that you can use is to use a pre-trained object detector. Many object detection workflows using deep learning leverage transfer learning. An approach, it will enable you to start with a pre-trained network and you can just fine-tune it for your application. So for the purpose of object detection, we can use two techniques, or we can say two approaches. First one is to create and train a custom object detector yourself. The second is to use a pre-trained object detector and then fine-tuning it according to your application. So these are the two basic approaches that are used for the purpose of object detection. So we have understood that what is object detection. Object detection, it is a computer vision technique for locating instances of objects in an image or maybe in the video. Coming to the next important thing, that is automatic image captioning. Image captioning, what does this mean? Caption an image means automatically generating a caption for an image. Basically, the goal of image captioning is to automatically generate the description for a given image. How? To capture the relationship between the objects which are present in the image, they generate the natural language expressions and judge the quality of the generated description. So basically, what happens in case of image captioning? We are automatically generating a caption for the image. The goal here is to automatically generate the description of the image by capturing the relationship between the objects which are present in the image and generating some natural language expression. Basically, the task of image captioning, it can be divided into two modules if we talk logically. One is an image-based model. What does it do? It extracts the features and nuances out of an image, and the other is a language-based model which translates the features of the objects which are given by an image by an image-based model to a natural sentence. So basically, image captioning, it can be categorized into two modules. One is the image-based model, second is the language-based model. In image-based model, we extract the features from our image, and in language-based model, we translate these features and the objects which are given by our image to a natural sentence. Like if you see a particular image of a student just sitting on a bench in a classroom, you can just caption it saying student sitting in the classroom. So that is what is happening. We are identifying the important object, who is the student here, the activity that is being done by him, that is he is studying. Where is he studying? The classroom. Now, converting it into the natural language is very simple for us, that a student studying in the classroom. So that is if we categorize that situation into a sentence. So this is called image captioning, means generating a caption for the image. For image based model, we usually rely on the conventional neural network model, and for the language based model, if we say, we rely on the recurrent neural network. So basically we have here two things, the image based model, and when we were discussing this conventional neural network, we discussed that CNN, they are basically used for the image classification, where we need to categorize our images. There we use CNN. So for the purpose of image captioning, for image based model, we will use CNN. And for the language based model, we are using recurrent neural network. That means if you want to caption our image into a particular sentence, we are using language based model. So there we will apply our recurrent neural network. Next is image generation with generative adversarial network. These generative adversarial network, which is popularly known as GENS, it is a deep learning unsupervised machine learning technique which is proposed in the year 2014. So here, what is generative adversarial network? Here we have two things into it. One is a generator and another one is a discriminator. This generative adversarial network, it is basic. Why is it called a generative adversarial network? Because it comprises of two neural network in itself. One is a generator, another is a discriminator. Generator, what does it do? This block, it tries to generate the images which are similar to that of the original data set by taking some noise as the input. It tries to learn the joint probability of the input data and the output data. So it is learning the joint probability of the input data and the output data. Second one, we have the discriminator. This block, it tries to accept two inputs, one from the main data set and another from the images that are generated by our generator, and it bifurcates them into the real images or the fake images. So basically in generative adversarial network, we have two neural networks. One is the generator, which is generating some images similar to the original data set. We have the discriminator, whose main task is to identify that which are the real images and which are the fake images which are generated by the generator. So image generation, it is a task of generating new images from the existing data set. So although image generation has been challenging, generative adversarial network, this image generation, it has proved to be very successful and impressive. However, there are two main challenges for generative image generation: the quality of the generated image and the training stability. So using our generative adversarial network, we are generating some images, but we are doing very successfully into this, that we can generate new images using our previous data set provided to us. But still there are two challenges that are main there. One is the quality of the generated image and another is the training stability. Talking about LSTM, long short-term memory, as a classifier model. LSTM, it is a model which increases the memory of recurrent neural network. We have seen that LSTM, it has a particular unit that is called memory, which increases the part that the output from one can be fed back into the previous. So we use LSTM, this long short-term memory, for text classification, as it is effective in memorizing the important information. In LSTM, we can use a multiple word string to find out the class to which it belongs. So this is very helpful while working with the natural language processing. If we use the appropriate layers of embedding and encoding in LSTM, this model, it will be able to find out the actual meaning in input string and will give the most accurate output class. So, having a good hold, memorizing certain pattern, LSTM perform fairly better. As with other neural network, LSTM can have multiple hidden layers, and as it passes through every layer, the relevant information is kept and all the irrelevant information, it gets discarded in every single cell. So our LSTM, it can definitely be used as a classifier model because it is a model which increases the memory of the recurrent neural network. So that is why we can use this LSTM for text classification because it is memorizing the important information. And we can use a multiple word string to find out the class to which it belongs. So it is when we are processing the natural language processing, so it becomes very helpful. If we use the appropriate layers of embedding and encoding in LSTM, this model, it will be able to find out the actual meaning in the input string and will give us the accurate result. Why? Because it is in this memory recognizing the earlier sentences. So that is why LSTM can be widely used as a classifier model. Because having a good hold of memorizing certain patterns, LSTM perform very nicely. As with other neural network, LSTM can have multiple hidden layers. And as it passes through each and every layer, the relevant information is kept and all the irrelevant information gets discarded in every single cell. Because of the memory part of LSTM, it can be widely used as a classifier model. Attention model for the computer vision. Attention model, or we can call them attention mechanism also. These are basically input processing technique for the neural network which allow the network to focus on the specific aspects of the complex input, one at a time, until that entire data set is categorized. So basically, attention model, what are these? These are the input processing technique which allow the network to focus on the specific aspects of the input, and it does it one at a time until the whole data set it gets categorized. So the goal here is to break down the complicated task into the smaller areas of attention that are processed sequentially. Attention model, they do require the continuous reinforcement or backpropagation training to be more effective. At attention model, they are requiring continuous reinforcement, means they require continuous learning of data. So that is why they are being used very effectively there. Basically, the classification of the attention mechanism model in the computer vision we are doing by applying the bottom-up visual attention computing model to a specific task of computer vision. The interference of the irrelevant information, it can be ignored. So, the generalization performance of the network, it can be improved. So, in the process of development, attention mechanism in the computer vision, they have evolved into different categories and different models pay attention to the diverse feature domains. So, attention model, basically what are these? These are the input processing techniques which allow the network to focus on the specific aspects of the input, one at a time until that our whole data set gets categorized. Here, what is the main function of attention model? To break down the complicated task into the smaller areas of attention, which can be further processed sequentially.